Welcome to Dungeon Realms. Delve into a fascinating world full of dark dungeons, evil monsters, and extraordinary treasure. Fight to strengthen and build up your character, collect rare and enchanted weapons and armor, and much, much more. Featuring fully randomized loot, get a different personalized weapon or piece of armor with its own stats every time you play. There are hundreds of different monster types to kill, many dungeons to explore, and plenty of rare treasure to collect. Prepare yourself for a world that destroys Minecraft's boundaries and creates an incredible action RPG adventure for you and your friends to enjoy.
So recently, I've been spending a lot of my time playing New World, which is Amazon's new MMORPG, and it's actually gotten me thinking about a Minecraft server that I used to play on called Dungeon Realms. Those were the days, coming home from school, hopping on Dungeon Realms to grind out gear and mine in a Skype call with my friends. When I first thought about making this video, I fully intended on just being like, hey, does anyone remember Dungeon Realms? And I even wrote in my notes like, no scandals. But boy, was I wrong. Dungeon Realms is an MMORPG Minecraft server that was founded in 2012 by Availer and Vaquixine. I honestly hope that's how you pronounce their name.
Vaquixine.
The game mainly centered around grinding for gear, which came in 5 tiers: leather, chainmail, iron, diamond, and gold. You grind for gear by defeating bad guys, opening up chests in the wild, or even buying it from other players' shops in the market. The best gear was really hard to come by and super expensive, so the grind was very grindy, but it felt good whenever you got a great piece of gear. I don't even think I got as high as diamond when I played Dungeon Realms. They even started to add professions like mining. I thought it was pretty unique because you could only mine ore using a pickaxe that was the same tier or higher, so if you didn't have an iron pickaxe, you couldn't mine iron. With every ore mined, you gained more experience and your pickaxe leveled up. Sometimes it would gain special effects as you continue to level it up. While I wasn't cut out for PvP or even fighting the NPC bad guys in the wild, I spent most of my time grinding my mining skill. And in the 8 years since I played Dungeon Realms, I would say not much has changed. I have always been someone to go after those crafting and gathering skills first. Besides grinding for gear and mining, there was also PvP in designated PvP areas, guilds, and dungeons. Like I said when I went back to research for this video, I just assumed it was a server that the player base grew up from and abandoned. I was not expecting to see a laundry list of changed ownership, tons of dead servers, and a player base asking for Dungeon Realms to finally be put to rest. I want to preface this section with the following. I am sure that there's some information that I'm missing when it comes to the frequently changing ownership. I actually had to piece this together from forum posts, from the wiki on the Dungeon Realms website, and even the Dungeon Realms Discord server. So I'm sure there are things that I'm missing, but this is what I've pieced together. Prior to the creation of Dungeon Realms, Availer and
Vaquixine
collaborated in constructing and adminning a role-play server called Lord of the Craft. Availer was the founder and head admin, whereas
Vaquixine
handled all the programming. Together, they were unstoppable. It's super important to mention here that many Minecraft programmers were not professional coders who did this as their job. Many Minecraft coders who worked on these projects are not paid and oftentimes are volunteers and code as a hobby. The Dungeon Realms website launched on September 8th, 2012, and their social media platforms popped up not long after. But it wouldn't be another 4 months until the Minecraft server opened for closed beta. Closed beta opened on January 26, 2013 to those who paid the $10 fee or to those who won beta access in one of several giveaways. It was during this time that Pizza Hut, a Fringe Team Crafted member, started his YouTube series on the server. Alongside the YouTube series, he also streamed his playthrough on Twitch. The open beta launched on June 15, 2013, to a wiped server and many changes, including changes to the armor and weapon stats. A wiped server, for those who don't know, is when the server resets and you must restart your progress. Usually this is because the admins have updates or bug fixes to deploy. And it only makes sense that after a closed beta that you would wipe the server for all of the new members who would be joining. That way the new players aren't automatically at a disadvantage because the closed beta players have been playing for so long. Only 7 months later, things would take a turn for the worse. On January 21st, 2014, Availer announced via a Twitch stream that he would be stepping down from Dungeon Realms, and the rights and brand would be passed on to the Minecade network. Availer explained that Dungeon Realms started as a 1-year contract between himself and
Vaquixine.
They were 50-50 owners of the server and planned to revisit the contract in January of 2014.
But at the end of 2013, by 2014, he wanted to move on. He's made what Dungeon Realms is now. You know, he made it. He coded absolutely everything from scratch, and so we had two choices. He could leave, and then I could get a new coding team, and that seemed pretty much what we were gonna do. And so what happened was a Minecraft Server crew that make mini games, and they've offered us before, and they've offered to kind of purchase Dungeon Realms off me and Vaquixine. You know, take control of Dungeon Realms and continue with its development.
Minecade is a server network that was launched in 2012, the same year that Dungeon Realms was created. According to their website, after a collaboration with the YouTuber Seth Bling, Super Craft Brothers became the server's biggest game. The community sentiment towards Availer selling Dungeon Realms was mixed. Many wished Availer the best, optimistic that Minecade might bring Dungeon Realms to the next level with more money and more resources. Others were critical of the move, claiming that Minecade was money hungry and would destroy the game.
Rest in peace. Right, listen guys, look, you have to understand, don't say rest in peace DR, okay? You guys have to understand that these guys, they have a much better infrastructure. They have a lot more support. It's going to be better than it ever was, and I'm 100% sure about that. Trust me.
In 2014, only 6 months after Minecade acquired Dungeon Realms, the server was taken offline. Allegedly, this is due to Minecade not having enough coders to work on the Dungeon Realms project. During this time, Minecade does not inform its player base as to the status and future of Dungeon Realms. Around September of 2014, the Sky Does Minecraft network merged with Minecade. According to a Minecade admin, Minecade has always been partnered with Sky to run and develop SKGA. This means we have shared developers, staff, owners, and even players from the beginning. This news was met with largely negative reactions. Now that it's been confirmed, you've effectively driven away 95% of all actual Dungeon Realms players. Dungeon Realms will probably survive due to this merge, but at the cost of almost all the old and loyal players of Dungeon Realms. I, for one, don't want to play with 8-year-olds. #CensorButter2014 was also a negative but hilarious comment on the forums. Sometime following this merger, Minecade owner Philippe informs the Dungeon Realm GM team that he will not be renewing the web domain. And in June 2015, the Dungeon Realm forums were taken down. Not long after Minecade shut down the forums, the DestinyMC network acquired all the rights to Dungeon Realms from Minecade and relaunched the server on September 9th, 2015. Six days following the relaunch of the forums, the servers were relaunched into open alpha. In 2016, DestinyMC implemented level requirements for tiers. According to Reddit user The Boiled Ham, this was meant to stop Tier 5 players from giving away their gear to friends or causing a flood of Tier 5 equipment into market. But many players did not like the change, noting that it made playing the game less fun and more grindy. And at some point after this, I don't have a date on it, DestinyMC's Dungeon Realms was closed down, allegedly because they wanted to code it from scratch, since the code they were given was pretty bad.
You know, he coded it, but not in like a friendly manner for other coders. All right, so it'd be relatively difficult for them to continue working on it.
And the code must have been so bad that in 2016, a Dungeon Realms player mod by the name of PlasmaMC made a post on the subreddit called RIP Dungeon Realms 2012 to 2016. In this post, they detailed that DestinyMC owner Atlas was done with the server and that there was no point in selling it. They make the claim that Dungeon Realms would not survive under DestinyMC unless they either 1. Sold it to Mineplex, 2. Hired more developers, or 3. Gain a much higher player base. The way I see it, though, a higher player base would not fix the issue presented in number 2. Not only did many bugs plague the server, but allegedly there was not enough coders to work on the server, which seems to be a common issue when it comes to Dungeon Realms. Atlas's last post on the Dungeon Realms website was on December 29th, 2016, where they introduced the Dungeon Realms mod pack, which promised many game-enhancing features. On April 8th, 2017, Bamboo made a post on the Dungeon Realms website announcing new ownership. They state that the ownership of the server went to iFamassxD and Ingot. They went on to state, "It means that you can expect updates and new content on a regular basis." In June 2017, they released the beta shard of Dungeon Realms, referred to as the new Dungeon Realms. Ingot writes, "The DR team has been hard at work trying to get the Dungeon Realms source code and overall player's experience back to an acceptable state." Yet on December 22nd, 2017, Incinerator64 made a post putting rumors to rest on Dungeon Realms' halt of progress. They dispelled the rumor that Dungeon Realms was being sold off. They went on to write, "Well, since college started, Ingot has been completely MIA as far as everyone is aware, including the entire staff team. The most we know is that real life is bearing down on him, along with all the rest of the team. While DR is a hobby for all of us working on it, priorities must be made." This is a super common occurrence in the Dungeon Realms timeline, and I have to drill this home, and I think Incinerator puts it really well, that Dungeon Realms and other Minecraft servers are oftentimes hobbies for staff. They most likely do not get paid for their roles, and if they do, it's probably very little, so their real life is their ultimate priority. In October 2017, Detoxin made an announcement on the Dungeon Realms homepage that they and 2 other players, Kiz and Lana, purchased the server, quote, "to make it like it once was." 3 months after the change in leadership, Detoxin resigned from the Dungeon Realms owner team. Additionally, developer KneeSnap shared that the development team had been hard at work recoding the entirety of Dungeon Realms, and they had planned for internal testing in February of 2018. At this point, I've lost track of what recode we're on. This might be 2 or 3. And on March 25th, 2018, Dungeon Realms was again relaunched to the public. In December 2018, a player named Disregard joined the Dungeon Realms development team. They had previously applied for a programmer role with Dungeon Realms, but their application was ignored, allegedly. According to this forum post, Disregard was participating in duping, being toxic towards the staff team, and bragging about their Dungeon Realms practice server. So duping means that they were hacking or exploiting a bug in the game that allowed them to duplicate items. I assume the items that they were duplicating were tier 5 gear and weapons. The Dungeon Realms staff were willing to give Disregard a second chance, and it seems as though Disregard is a reformed gamer. In January 2019, KneeSnap announced that Kiz left the ownership team due to school and his job. KneeSnap went on to write that they and Asian Bayesian had purchased Kiz shares. KneeSnap held 50%, Serum held 30%, and Asian Bayesian held 20%. In March 2019, only 2 months after Kiz resigned, Serum left the ownership team, and Disregard and Asian Bayesian purchased their shares. They provided another update on the rough ownership of Dungeon Realms. KneeSnap still held 50%, and Disregard and Asian Bayesian had 25% each. At some point, which has not been announced on the forums or the Discord server, Asian Bayesian left the ownership team. Dungeon Realms saw several updates and a plethora of server wipes between March 2018 and December 2020 when they released the guild update. The guild update added guild villages, which have a leveling system of their own, a guild leaderboard, and guild territories where the guilds can collect taxes from players who are fighting mobs in the guild's claimed area. As far as the wiki is concerned, DestinyMC is the current owner of the official Dungeon Realms server and domain. and KneeSnap and Disregard are the current owners, from what I could find. While the DestinyMC Era of Dungeon Realms is seemingly the Dungeon Realms that has survived the longest, it does not survive without its flaws. While that sounds like a pretty straightforward change in ownership, many other Dungeon Realms servers have popped up from 2015 up until as recently as August of 2020. r/Dungeon Realms is filled with many hopefuls who are convinced that they can restore Dungeon Realms to its 2013 glory. Pieces of the Dungeon Realms code float around the subreddit. Besides the official owners of the Dungeon Realms domain, the following are also owners of Dungeon Realms. A Reddit user called FlameBlast20 created a Dungeon Realms clone, quote, without using any assets from the Practice Server plugin. According to them, the server officially released in April of 2014. They hosted the server as a 100% nonprofit community server on their network called Radiation Network. It featured many of the classic Dungeon Realms features, and they planned to release the code when it was finished. In a follow-up to their original post about their Dungeon Realms clone, FlameBlast20 stated that they had working versions of the Dungeon Realm code that they didn't want anymore. They claimed that they were moving on from Dungeon Realms and Minecraft in general. After trying to revive the game for over a year, FlameBlast20 writes, "This isn't for me. I want Dungeon Realms to be revived, but by how everything is coming together, I won't be able to do it." A Reddit user called Creepa opened a Dungeon Realms server in 2015. Their version of Dungeon Realms was called Rungeon Delms. They claim to have features such as new armor and weapon talents, extremely high drop rates, guilds and dungeons, and original 1.7 PvP. Not long after the launch, the server was handed to another Reddit user and the trail there has gone cold. These were the most concrete stories that I could find of other Dungeon Realms owners, but the subreddit is full of posts that say new Dungeon Realms practice server, check out my Dungeon Realms server. But with each Dungeon Realms reboot, many in the community are begging for the game to be put to rest. The subreddit is filled with comments like, "Let the game die." How many days Dungeon Realms will be up until it inevitably is shut down again? And with all that being said, today I am super excited to announce that I will be starting my own Dungeon Realms server in an attempt to restore Dungeon Realms to its former 2013 glory. Dungeon Realms suffers from many of the same problems it suffered from 8 years ago. Players being able to duplicate items results in frequent server wipes, which resets any progress that players have made. The most recent wipe date on the official Dungeon Realms server was December 17th, 2021, and before that, July 2021. With all the wipes, players may not feel motivated to grind in the game because of their progress being reset every 2 to 5 months. The update that comes with the wipes may improve the game, but at what cost? The current Dungeon Realms leadership, from what I can see, has done a great job in rebuilding the server code, as well as adding substantial updates to the game, including their class update, the guilds update, and the conquest update. And I'm sure there's a lot more updates that I'm missing here. But the current Dungeon Realms suffers from the same problems that every Dungeon Realms has ever suffered from: an enormous lack of resources and money. It seems like leadership at every step of the way has lacked the necessary resources and focus for Dungeon Realms to be restored to its 2013 glory. Even Availer was a third-year med student, and I'm sure
Vaquixine
wasn't making much programming on the project. It's actually really sad to think about how many hidden Minecraft server gems have been lost or closed due to the lack of resources in the community. And it's hard to say what percentage of Minecraft servers actually turn a profit and how many of those actually pay their devs and programmers a fair and livable wage. At the end of the day, server owners and developers need a way to support themselves, and Minecraft is just a hobby. I'm sad to see what happened to Dungeon Realms. I think it was way too ambitious of a project for anyone to handle, as can be seen by everyone who has tried to relaunch it. From the lack of resources to messy or missing code, it's simply too much effort. Dungeon Realms was unique, and any other MMO cannot scratch the itch that Dungeon Realm leaves. The DestinyMC Dungeon Realms server is still up, and you can check it out. You can also check out Minecraft. I know they have a huge player base over there as well, but it's not like Dungeon Realms, so it's different. With all the Dungeon Realms code floating around on the internet, there's bound to be new servers made by the optimistic, or dare I say naive, players who miss the days of 2012 Dungeon Realms. I'm sure in the next few years we're going to see countless new Dungeon Realms servers. To quote Incinerator64, Dungeon Realms is an unkillable plague. Even if it goes down, it always revives. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to leave a comment down below if you play at Dungeon Realms, or leave a comment about anything you want, because leaving a comment boosts my video in the algorithm. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. If you liked my video, like it, comment, subscribe. Thank you, and have a good one.